Hello, Chaps and Chapettes. Thank you for joining in for another episode of the Guitar Geeks podcast. Even though this week we have the wonderful pleasure and splendor of Axiom joining us today. So it's no longer Guitar Geeks and it is Band Geeks. And this is in no way associated with the American Pie movies. Axiom are a band from the Midlands who specialize in some fantastic progressive goodness, full of heavy drums.
I like fantastic as well. Yeah.
All right, that's staying in. So, Said, Stu, and Josh, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Hi.
Hey, good, thanks. Good to be here.
Thank you for taking the time out this evening for being here. So, for those of you that don't know, who are you and what are you doing?
I don't know. Who are you?
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't even know. Don't know ourselves. Zaid, who are you? What are you doing? What's your purpose in life?
I don't know, mate. Since COVID, I've just got no idea what's going on most of the time. I didn't have a great handle on things before. It's just worse now.
At least it's not
for this, Zaid is the guitar guy. He is the titular guitar geek of the band.
I suppose in this context, yeah. So, yeah, hi, I'm Zaid. I play guitar in this menagerie of progressive goodness.
Fantastic.
Cool. And fantastic. And I'm Stu. I play the big guitar with fewer strings. Also have no handle on life, particularly during COVID.
I do the rest of the band then, the other bits. And
all the other many bits.
I reckon I'm doing all right. Life's all right. I got a handle on things.
At least one of us has.
Yeah, exactly.
I was going to say, makes one of
us. So how have you guys been coping during all the current predicaments at the moment?
Honestly, I think I've been all right. Sorry to see it under the shade, but
it's cool, man.
It's been chilling on a beach, really, as you can see, and just working remotely under the sun, the margarita in one hand. I guess from the band's perspective, we've also
made it difficult. Yeah, it has made it difficult.
Yeah,
in the past,
it has made it tough,
but we've survived.
I think we've possibly had our most productive year in terms of writing. Because
it was kind of coincidental. We were planning always during this period to be writing. We released that EP October 2019.
Yeah, seems like a lifetime ago now.
Yeah. Time is weird. So yeah, we released it then. Did loads of gigs.
Available at all streaming retailing services.
Thanks for being the doing that. We should be doing.
Plug.
We suck at that, so thanks, Josh.
Yeah. So yeah, we did that and did a few gigs, and we were always like, okay, let's figure out what to do next, because we know what we wanted to do better for the next sort of chunk of songs. So we were always planning on hunkering down everywhere. Sorry, we took the rest of the world with us, I guess.
Selfish.
Yeah.
So yeah, it has been difficult given that obviously we're all working remotely, but there's been some interesting tech behind how we've been approaching writing that has been helpful. I'll leave someone else to talk about that shit.
Yes, so I have seen and heard a lot about that, because obviously when you were playing Arctangent and Techfest and whatnot, obviously doing that remotely, it must have been quite a arduous task.
Yeah,
kind of.
It was definitely daunting, to say the least. I mean, not as daunting as actually going up on stage at Arctangent, which still terrifies me even now thinking about that. But yeah, so I guess Zaid, if you want to talk a bit about kind of our COVID process, I guess, for writing, which has been an absolute godsend, really.
Yeah, so we found some open source software called Jamulus about a month in, 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Was it?
I can recall something like that from what I saw.
Yeah, and then I don't know, a few weeks after that, I think it was just the kind of little respite we had before the second lockdown. I made the decision to come back to Lincolnshire, to leave Birmingham, not permanently, but to be with my family. I live by myself. After 3 months of isolation, it was getting pretty tough, man. Even occasionally going for walks with Josh and his dog socially distanced and that kind of thing. I needed to be with family. My grandmother was turning 100. My parents are getting on a bit. I was like, I don't want to take a 2-week isolation break before I can see people I care about in amongst all this madness. So anyway, I came back to Lincolnshire, and Jamulus has been working incredibly well for us. And I got here and I was like, this is never going to work, plugging into my parents' terrible middle of Lincolnshire broadband. Anyway, plugged in, and it worked. It worked as well as I was in Birmingham. And I actually, yeah, we just haven't looked back since then, have we? Basically,
yeah. I mean,
No,
Stu's on like dial-up basically, and
it's like one dial up above dial-up. Pretty much. Like, it's like my internet here is atrocious for some reason. Like, I still live relatively centrally, but it's a relatively sort of new build, so everywhere around me has fiber except the building I'm in, and it's really frustrating. But like, yeah, like literally, I look out the window and I'm just like, I see all these people with fiber, and I'm like, fuck you.
It was like that in my old flat.
Even on a beach, you've got neighbours with fibre on a beach.
It's mad, man. And there's just me. There's just me and my one new build hut, which, to be fair, I built myself. But there's just no
palm
fiber
tree, get an aerial, call up Elon Musk, and get one of them satellite jobbers.
I looked into that genuinely, but yeah. So in order to be able to play sort of, over the internet with sort of minimal latency, such that we can actually like play and write and all that sort of stuff, I have to kick my missus off the internet entirely, turn off all wireless access points, and plug directly into the router, and then it works. She's not happy about it, but it works.
And you're in a prog band, she's not massively happy in general.
Yeah, it's true. Don't know why she's with me, but actually I do know, because of COVID. But yeah, got nowhere else to go.
Remember, kids, prog doesn't pay.
Prog does not pay in all manner of ways. Yeah, but no, I do feel that, like, yeah. So even using Jamulus, I feel like we've been making really good headway in terms of our writing, and strangely, the way in which we now write via Jamulus, I find, has a number of benefits that we didn't have sort of writing in a room or kind of like in a space at like Zaid's place or whatever. I know we talked about this before, but like having almost like recording in a studio, kind of like hearing each other really quite clearly, as opposed to in a recording room, just the sound is nowhere near as clear and crisp. So you pick up on little things that you may not pick up immediately if we were just sort of writing in a rehearsal room. And that has been something that for me has been really, really valuable, actually.
Yeah, I don't want to turn the whole interview into gushing about Jamulus, but it really has been it's been a godsend to the point where I've built a business around helping people use it and hosting the servers that are required to do it. But I think one feature we love, although we use it very sparingly, although we did use it heavily for the TechFest and Arctangent thing, was that it can record multi-channel in the cloud. So it actually produces a Reaper session. You can use the stems and import them into any DAW you like, but it literally spits out multi-channel Reaper ready to go sessions. So we literally sent that to the guy that mixed our EP, and he mixed it. And this
on top of that, we haven't tested it yet, but at the time when we recorded it, we just sent an audio channel, like the actual audio channel of the electric kit behind.
Oh yeah.
But we haven't tested it properly, but we now have the facility to just send the MIDI as well. So if we need to do any sort of like sound replacement or trigger replacement on that, we can.
Super exciting, man.
Yeah, man. So it's like it puts us in this quasi situation where we're playing, which is what, like, as a band, we're a live band. That's what we do, but we're writing in a studio environment, and it's something that everyone has recording gear at home, but particularly for drummers, a lot of drummers, and Josh does it all the time, have had to program, but actually getting people at their instruments and playing and vibing off each other. I don't know, people will be the judge when we release the new stuff, but for me, it's really apparent that the sort of depth and the detail in the songwriting has I don't know, I'm really proud of it so far.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I can probably vouch for when you brought out Metathesis. I thought, you can really get a good feel of a band that's sort of on the same wavelength together, working as a cohesive unit. So for the fact to be then having that taken a step further with being able to do it from, say, the comfort of your own home, must add an entire, just a completely new aspect to what you was already doing.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I think one of our strengths with our stuff is like the way we've changed how we've approached writing songs all the time. We're like, this isn't working, let's try this. But one thing that has been like a kind of running thread through all of it is we iterate over songs over and over again, kind of like to try and work out, try to kind of squeeze out the best bits of the song, really. Yeah. And again, it's much easier to do that with being able to record like straight away, like, and hear what you're doing straight away and listen back straight away and kind of like move that. And I think that's definitely been that we were kind of focusing on that strength, which is that kind of like reviewing of stuff and kind of like, yeah, refining what we've got. I think that's the best thing. Like, the newer songs just feel a lot more refined and more thought out. Yeah,
they definitely feel sort of more considered. I do feel that part of that is because we are now able to like properly hear each other and just like very easily just like sit down and just like jam it out in real time, whereas previously, before Jamulus, we'd have to like meet up in person. We'd be sort of like exhausted after work. We'd like travel to someone's house or to a rehearsal room, lug all of our gear, like you obviously got, you know, all that sort of faff around it, whereas now it's like you just sit down, plug it in, and we're able to like hear each other clearly and sort of work on any of the songs. And I feel like, yeah, it's allowed us to put a lot more energy into kind of what we're doing. And
some of our sessions have been like 30 minutes where we've come in and gone, here's an idea, and it's very clear that we need to take it straight to like a Logic demo, or it's terrible and we need to start again and go drop back to the drawing board. And the fact that you've not like booked a room for 15 or 20 quid or whatever, you sort of end up drudging through a rehearsal because of the financial commitment. Whereas with this, it's been a lot more like, I've literally called Josh on his lunch break and gone, bro, riff. I've got a riff. And we've done a lunchtime jam, and that 20-minute riff has turned into a song or whatever.
Yeah.
I think Blood in the Water kind of, Blood in the Water did start there, I think.
Yeah. Well, there's a kind of like a scoop.
I was going to say, it's name dropped.
It's the first time you're going to hear a name of the songs here.
No one else has heard that.
Yeah.
Can we just clarify, you heard that here first? No other podcast service has this information.
Yeah.
And stay tuned. We will reveal another song name later on in the podcast.
You'll have to be patient.
Committed.
From the horse's mouth. That's not the song title.
That's the album name.
That's the album name.
Right, where were we?
I've no idea still.
Yeah. But in conclusion, we are writing, and it feels like we're making good progress.
We're really excited and happy with the way the songs are going. And just to say, they may be more thoughtful and refined. They're still mental. They're still like ridiculous songs.
We just go on. Sorry, dude.
No, go on, Zay. Go ahead.
No, so we just, what we tend to do is, we've tried lots of ways of writing, but I think one thing that settled quite early was we tend to focus on one song at a time, just because they're so complex, it gets confusing. And like, if we work on one song and go to another, that ends up inheriting a bit too much of the last one we've been working on. So we've really focused, and we've just gone back to revise a song that I don't think I'd heard since before lockdown. Maybe
probably early lockdown.
Maybe very early lockdown, 7-8 months at least.
Yeah.
And I literally sent a text message to the guys going, I don't know if I can play this on Friday because I'm just having a panic attack. Like, it's a bit silly. It's not that bad, but like if you compare it to certain bands, we're not that technical, but there's so much detail, man. Even if it's just subtle things like not playing this note in the next bar, it needs to be remembered because it's important compositionally.
I think this is the thing about like being a 3-piece instrumental is without a singer, every instrument is really, really prominent, and you have to be really considered with what you do. Like, I think definitely, there's a running joke where I'm always like, Stu, less bass. But I think that's true for the drums as well. Or whenever I'm programming drums, I always overcomplicate things and then have to pare it backwards because it's really clear in the 3-piece, like if there's a kick drum or a snare that shouldn't be there.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what the most of the refinement is like going over this sort of stuff and going, actually, we're overthinking this, or this ironically needs more work and stuff. Yeah.
I have massive props for that, to be fair, because I find with some drummers nowadays, they constantly feel that it needs to be constant blast beats or double bass and things like that. And I think the good way that you guys come across is, like you say, is every instrument is excelling in its own certain area and adding something different.
I mean, that I'm really shit at double kick anyway, so that's probably why.
But yeah, I guess also to that, it's also kind of like ensuring there's that sort of space and that breathing room for some of the other instruments, other parts of the song as well, instead of just being like just relentless 3 instruments like for 3.5 minutes or whatever. We do kind of like having our space as well.
Yeah. With that kind of like no singer thing, you have to try a lot harder to keep interest throughout a song, because there's not like lyrics to listen to or whatever. So we do have to kind of play with that kind of like, our dynamics have to be bigger, because that's how you keep that interest. The kind of like, the song we're currently working on has some crazy kind of like, it's very heavy and then gets very quiet kind of stuff that I really like in it. It's great.
I do like how, especially I guess this is speaking from a guitar perspective, where Zaid's able to portray that emotion with the guitar lines that are coming through the songs. I think that's one of the big strengths, and I think where you really see that's evident is when you listen to Believe, and the whole, you've got that kind of fun vibe going all the way through it, and then in that last sort of few bars where it's just that dirty riff and it just explodes out. I love it. For me.
Oh man, it's fun. It's the awkward thing about being in this band, I think, as a guitarist is not most. There's a lot. You've got Polyphia, Intervals, Pliny. A lot of these instrumental bands are very guitarist driven, and I'm just not that guy. Like, I can't play to that standard. I try, but I can't. But B, I'm just not that kind of songwriter. I think even if I could, I'm not sure I'd want to be at the forefront as much as some of those guys are. But a lot of the joy I get from this project, because of how I like to work musically, is I don't actually remember who wrote that section in Believe, but I remember it being something to do with Josh pushing for some particular aspect and me nicking something from the bass line. And there's so much of that in this band, where there's a riff gets written and then it turns into the bass line, and then the melody gets dumped and it influences the drum beat, and then that, there's the guys have written parts of my solos and all sorts of stuff.
There was one point where we accidentally dragged the drum MIDI into an instrument, and you built a riff off of the weirdness that came out of that.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah,
I genuinely can't remember. I can't remember what part it ended up being, but yeah, I distinctly remember that happening.
Yeah,
probably.
Yeah.
It doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. But yeah, that's again something I really like, is that like we are all very involved in the songwriting.
That's the key word, isn't it? It is songwriting. It's not make a guitar album or a whatever.
And I guess like it's a bit of a double-edged sword, because it does mean that our writing process is very long.
I was going to say we take ages to write stuff.
And I think it's because we're also like involved and very kind of like passionate about like every section. Sure. And, like if one person isn't happy, we listen to that person. And we go.
We're learning as well, though. I think like none of us could call ourselves accomplished composers. We're aspiring to be, and we're working really hard at it. And I think what Stu was just saying is spot on. We've all got different aspects of that. Like Josh is a ferociously good arranger, and he's sort of fathers that aspect of the songwriting. I'm very much about like the melody and the chords and stuff, and Stu plays the bottom E.
I was literally going to say that. You beat me to it. You beat me to it.
No,
to be fair, as the arranger, if he plays anything else, I just remove it from the track. There's no point.
It's like a little bit less bass.
The next album is going to be like "And Justice for All." There's going to be no bass in it at all.
Oh yeah, like there's going to be like
Stu's name's
going to get further and further off the side of the album until he's just
pretty much, yeah. He's just a ghost in the background.
I don't know why we're always so mean to Stu, but the thing is, like, every chord I play, me and Stu spend a lot of time talking about, more so with the new stuff than the old, actually. You know, if Stu changes his bass note, I'm playing a different chord, depending how you want to sort of perceive that from like a music theory and composition sort of perspective. And that's gotten, I think that's a really big thing we've spent a lot of time on compared to Meta Thesis, is that how can I do even less, and how can the bass moving, how can Stu make me sound good? That's what we've been focusing on.
Yeah.
I'll happily take that
Exactly.
description. Sure.
Yeah.
He's not a he hasn't just got like, you know, sharp beard game. He's also extremely modest. So we spoke about sort of Jamulus and being in the comfort from, like, you know, your own space being a good way of using your strengths to writing. But what have you found actually been quite difficult during this process of writing?
I mean,
it's a good question.
Despite, like, they before talking about how renting, getting a room is often like not necessarily the best thing to do. So Meta Thesis was, again, like Zaid said, we're a live band, and being out, there's a definite energy that you get playing together in a room and seeing each other and hearing each other kind of in that raw space that I miss. And we're always talking about these songs like, right now, this is at a point where we have to play it live together in a sort of space together. So our songs can only kind of get to that point. And I think we're all in agreement. I don't think we want to release these songs without having played them live at a gig first.
Yeah, and I guess because like the first sort of EP was so heavily kind of refined as we played it live, and we'd sort of gauge the audience reaction to certain bits and sort of how it would feel over numerous live playthroughs, and eventually, you know, those tracks then evolved into what is now Meta Thesis, the EP, and that's something that, yeah, I guess us being a live band, we're very conscious of, that we wouldn't want to lose that. And I think if we did try and like release anything where we hadn't played it live at least you know, a good number of times, it may not have that same Axiom to feel or energy to it, and that is.
I don't think I'd feel comfortable with that release. It would always sit weirdly.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of a.
Never tried the water,
It just,
so to speak.
Yeah.
I can't even get my head around the prospect of, it seems strange. People do it, of course.
Oh yeah, totally.
But yeah, it just seems weird to
that
me.
Kind
anyway.
of leads me on to the point of when you were recording Meta Thesis, because I was speaking to the producer and sound engineer, Michael. I can't even pronounce his last name, I'll be honest. So sorry, Michael, if you're watching this. And the bit that stood with me throughout the whole album is when you finish Believe and you can hear you guys chatting at the end, going wrong time in the solo, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Because that was all, if I recall right, you all recorded that together in sort of one go, didn't you?
Yeah.
We did.
So we
yeah.
had an attempt at recording the EP beforehand in that more traditional manner of recording drums separately and then one at a time kind of thing. And it just didn't come out the way we envisioned. And then Mike saw us at a gig.
He played with us.
Yeah. Let's play in Tetra. And said he wanted to like help record. So we took him up on that, and he said, "You were like I really love your live sound. So let's do it like that. Let's record it like you're doing a gig, sort of like in a live."
Which we thought was a terrible idea.
Oh God!
We
were like, why would you do that?
Yeah, and that's what. Yeah, it was great. It was like that's exactly what we needed to do. And so we just did each song kind of it's like 3 or 4 times, and just that, and they picked the ones that were the takes that worked, and it was.
And it was really fun, honestly. Like, I never thought we like could have pulled that off, like genuinely.
And really, it's like we had a weekend as well to record the whole EP, and doing it all in one go, like that. It actually is a kind of more efficient from a time perspective, because it's not like a case of like you record the drums, you record press, you record guitar, and then maybe you need to go back to the drums, because actually there's a bit that doesn't kind of work. You're sitting there, you're playing it all together, and you can kind of like hear the whole song straight away.
Yeah.
And it's
And being in the studio, I even talk about it now, and I'm slightly romanticized by going in the studio, bro. It sounds great, and it is fun. But when you're doing the one thing at a time thing, you are sat around for just hours listening to the same thing over and over again, and it isn't fun. It's how I've always recorded. I'd never live tracked like this, like we did before.
Yeah.
And it was so awesome to just do what I want to do, which is play guitar. So it's just like, do that for 8 hours. I was like,
it was a huge contrast, wasn't it? Because we actually did try and record it first, like sort of elsewhere, the traditional way. And I do remember that being like, it was fun because we were together and we were like away and all that sort of stuff. But like the recording process was arduous, and there was, as you say, Zaid, like a lot of sitting around. Whereas I remember when we sort of recorded it with Mike, there was like a point where I just had my trousers down playing bass, and it was just like great fun. I don't know if you guys remember that, but it's just,
it's on Instagram. It's immortalized, or it was on Instagram. I don't know.
I need to find this clip.
You can't unsee it. That's all I'm saying.
In a good way.
Oh yeah, go check out his ass. It's awesome.
You wouldn't want to unsee it, but
you won't believe it when he was recording the bass through the EP. He wasn't playing it with his hands, ladies.
Well, the slap bass parts at least.
Ooh.
Oh no, that's not a nice image.
So did you learn anything from doing Metathesis then that you've taken to the new album or the new EP that's going to be coming out?
For sure.
Hugely, yeah.
So many things. I think one of the things that we were keen to do it's that a lot of the songs for the EP were kind of like not thrown together, but we felt like the part, it kind of goes like part riff kind of thing, and then it didn't kind of flow nicely. So it's one of the things we really wanted to do to make like the whole songs feel a lot more cohesive rather than just a series of riffs played after each other, and I think we're succeeding with that at the moment. Who knows?
We're better at it than we were.
Yeah, for sure. It's always a learning process. Like, we're never going to be perfect at it, but I think we're getting much better at kind of like creating a more cohesive whole. Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think as well, you guys mentioned it earlier, but a bit about dynamics as well. It's definitely something that in the first sort of EP, there was a lot less of that, less consideration of it. Whereas,
I think that's because like, I think we were playing a bit more to what we thought people's expectations of us would be. And if you like it, it's that element of like, this part should be a heavy part, so we've got to make it sound a specific way. But now we're kind of realizing, we're getting that confidence to be like, no, I want to try doing like, I want to try paring back even more to create an atmospheric bit here, and then kind of build on that there. I think it's definitely a confidence that we're writing with now, or more so.
Yeah.
That's good. When I remember I was tuned in to when you were doing the live gig where you debuted Gestalt, and I think it was evident to see where you were on Metathesis to then sort of that I guess that vision you had going forward. It almost felt like it was done in almost like phrases, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's an interesting observation because Gestalt is in a bit of no man's land, isn't it? Between Metathesis and
it's like a weird.
We don't really get, because we wrote Gestalt as a sort of we need to fill the set out with something really. So I think we added it to our set, our like live set, shortly after Metathesis was written and finished. But maybe not out. I'm not sure how it all. Can't remember.
I remember seeing it live at that Sounds Like You're Dead gig with
Monuments,
Death Blooms,
possibly. Oh, yeah. Death Blooms, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So I think it was around that time anyway, and it's definitely this kind of like tail end of Metathesis leading into the new stuff. But I don't really see it as connected to the stuff.
I still see it. It's almost like so Metathesis is kind of like first gen Axiom almost. How I see it. And Gestalt is like, I think as you described it, this weird sort of tail end of that first gen.
Yeah, it's an expansion pack to Metathesis. It's definitely not going to be the newest stuff.
Yeah, pretty much.
I didn't realize you were sponsored by EA Games.
Oh yeah, definitely. Oh god,
it's a bit of Axiom DLC.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be good. Well, so
Yeah.
fuck that. Fuck the new stuff. We're re-releasing Metathesis as a remastered version with DLC pack at the end of it.
only if you get the season pass.
Oh, obviously.
Oh yeah, obviously. Yeah.
Never before seen Stu Trouserless footage.
But this time from the front.
Hey. Do you find sort of being as a three-piece then, do you find that you're having to rely on a lot of sort of, I guess the word is like soundscapes to then add more to that overall sound sort of post-production? If that makes sense.
So this is an interest. So we've compartmentalized that problem for now, but it's something me and Stu have been saying since probably before Metathesis that we want to sit down and look at that stuff. We're quite keen to stay as close to being a truly organic three-piece. Like I'm not throwing any shade on anyone that runs backing tracks or backing synths or that kind of thing. But we want to be playing what's put out as much as possible. And that is probably half the reason we're slow writing, because frankly, if we could have some synth pads here or there, we could like chill a bit and not have to write everything.
I mean, there is a song we're currently writing that we tentatively put synth pads in that are going to be triggered by me, but that's purely if I can.
Yeah, you'll be playing them if you can.
I will be triggering them like properly, not like triggering a backing. So that is the plan, to try and see if we can get that working. But yeah, we want to try and make it like everything you hear both on a sort of CD or streaming and live are kind of being done by us, you know. Yeah.
I think
I guess that's
for me and gone, Stu.
I think you're going to say what I was going to say about essentially utilizing our sort of Helix pedals as much as we can to use things like kind of reverb, delay, all that sort of good stuff that really kind of like beefs up that sound from our perspective. But yeah, we have always been a bit tentative when it comes to as you say, sort of synth and that kind of stuff. But yeah, we're open to it, but as long as we can still do it live, that's kind of, I guess we've all been in agreement on that.
Yeah. Plus playing to a backing track's really fucking difficult. Can't be after that.
I can
we fuck up too much live.
Exactly. Like we play to a click, but that's purely because the first gig we did, I played the songs like 20 BPM too quickly. And it's just that adrenaline of playing a show live, my body can't handle it, and I start just like
I can vouch as being in like with our band, like we have backing tracks and we play to a click, and when one of those fails, it's a fucking shit show when it goes wrong massively.
You need a recovery plan, don't you? And the thing is, it's with what we do, I mean, fair play, we are supposed to be playing Techfest and Arctangent, but 95 or higher % of this band's existence is club size gigs, and we want to take a show. Like we've been doing some stuff with some like a light rig that we're going to be taking to venues that's low impact, but we hope nice to look at. And having to set up like a rack and a PC and blah blah blah, we're like set up in 10 minutes and leave, get out of the way.
That's actually been that's probably been the bet. Like through doing all those gigs, our main refinement hasn't been really we need to change this song works. It's always been
we bought a box.
We need to change how load in and load out works because it's a nightmare.
just trying to optimize it and just like basically like cut down our gear as much as possible. I mean, like Zayd and I just don't use amps. We just like and it's so much days. Better. And it's always great, isn't it, when like you
so
speak
much from hardware. It's ridiculous.
I feel slightly bad for this question because I'm going to have to kind of leave Josh out of this for a moment. So I want to talk to Stu and Zayd about the Helix. Have you found that it has been beneficial then, writing in the terms that you do? And secondly, how do you approach making those sounds?
So, I guess number one, I've absolutely loved the Helix. I mean, sort of early Axiom days. So Zayd and I kind of spent quite a long time, I think, kind of talking about kind of what our sort of rigs would look like, both in terms of minimizing gear, but also maximizing sound and sort of, the best sort of sound we could muster. And I think at one point I bought like a shitload of like Boss pedals and experimented with those. And then, Zaid was for quite a while trying to convince me to get the Helix, and I was like, okay, like I've got these, like I quite like my sound at the moment. What am I going to get from the Helix? But honestly, I couldn't imagine any other setup now. I think like we have like what do we call like tone bone sessions, Zaid, or something we've had in the past where we like just like sit down literally with our Helixes and just like go through these presets and just like meticulously go through our sound and like try and see how it kind of matches each other. And yeah,
that's been the big thing to see how but again, that's come from playing live, because there's so much to do with guitar tone and bass tone. It can sound so ugly in isolation, but you put it in a mix or in a live setting and it really comes to life. Like Josh has the angriest cymbals in the world, so finding a guitar tone that kind of works with that was actually quite tough, but we got there, and it's why we sound how we do. But for me, I ended up at the Helix because I'll send you a picture of the mothership pedal board that I built that was just insane. It's on my Instagram page. And it was massive and it cost a fortune. You know what it's like, my autofocus is awful. Is that
I prefer this, Zaid. Carry on. I prefer it.
I'll just keep going. It'll come back eventually. But I just got so sick of, I probably spent as much money on power supplies under the board as I had on pedals. And I was using something called the Amplify. It's like a little red stomp modeler thing. And I loved the concept, but there was a frequency in it that I could not dial out that I hated. And I was using the Boss switcher, which is awesome. It's an amazing looper switcher.
EMS3 or EMS5 rather.
I think I was using the 5. I can't remember, but you know the one. And when I saw the Helix had every pedal I could possibly want to experiment with and muck around with, and the routing of the ES, whatever it is. And I only have to plug one power supply in, and it's got an expression pedal. And then the icing on the cake is that there's something called Helix Native, which is basically just the software from Helix that runs as a VST. So that meant we did our early demos using Helix Native, and then when we were ready to go live, we just exported those sounds and then put them on our Helixes, and then they got refined, and then we actually sent those to Michael before we recorded Metathesis, where he tweaked them for the EP, and then they came back to us as our live sounds. So that really holistic development, and just the ease, it's so easy. The only thing I've seen that I think can compete with it is the Dark Glass guys that they're releasing. It's completely... You just ordered one, haven't you, Josh?
Oh, the Quad Cortex.
I wanted to say Quad Cortex, but I was like, that doesn't sound right. But yes, I think the Quad Cortex is the only thing from a usability standpoint that can touch it, frankly.
With the neural stuff, it's weird because I've got my Kemper and I've got my pedal board, and then I was chatting to Rabea one evening and he said, you need to try the neural DSP stuff because I'd never tried it before. And I was just like, okay. So I got a free try and I was just like, damn, this is good. And then I've been using that more and more.
We're so spoiled, like as modern guitarists. It's become a which do you like more, not which is better. There's one thing I love about the Helix stuff, because I love the amp models in the Kemper. I can't stand its interface. I love with the Helix that I've got this sort of quasi real pedal board. If I want to tweak something, I tap the switch it's assigned to and twist a knob. I forgot what I was talking about.
Presets on the Helix, something like that.
Oh, choice, yeah. So it's one of the things that's nice about the Line 6 ecosystem, I guess, is their Facebook groups are really good, and the lead software engineer is in the Facebook group, and you can talk to him, and he's my friend on Facebook, and he does these awesome videos where he's actually dialed the Helix in side by side with things like the neural plugins, and he explains why the neural's more friendly, and he literally matches them like for like. You couldn't do that years ago. Like if you had a Boss pedal and a Line 6 pedal, they kind of had this annoying thing and it had its annoying thing, and they were all right. So I think it's a tool, it's a preference, and they all deliver, and it's what you like to use and like the sound of or just get on with, and that's crazy. That's such a nice place to be as a guitar player or bass player.
Yeah. Sorry, Josh.
Yeah, definitely.
That's all right. That's like, I just hit things really. Like this, though, it's fine.
I mean, Josh, you've got pedals as well, technically.
It's true. They're pretty analog though.
They're very analog.
That's a good point, to be fair. So using obviously an electronic kit at home, no one can really have a full-size acoustic drum kit at home. So have you
I have
found
done that, and everyone hated me. So
so with having an electric kit, do you have like a preference to using the sounds on the electric kit, or do you tend to send like a MIDI signal out and then use something like the GGD software? Do you have a preference to?
Because we're still writing stuff, I really don't care. I just got some default Roland sounds that sound pretty good, and they work for what we're doing. For the live stuff, when we sent it over to Michael to refine for, I think it was for Believe, he did some trigger replacement on some of the drums because I was hitting them loud enough that it worked, but then for one of the songs I didn't do that properly, so we couldn't do that. That's why we've got the MIDI stuff, so we can send a MIDI signal if we want to do that again. But for what we're doing, I don't think it matters too much. I'm not the kind of drummer that like agonizes too much over the sound of the kit, like especially at this stage.
You know what you don't like though, right? If there's a certain
I was going to say
basically I'm that annoying drummer that can't give any input, but as soon as but I'll constantly critique your shitty drum sound.
Oh yeah, that drummer.
Yeah, I definitely know what you like which is really good though, right? Because it's like when it comes to say like when Michael's kind of giving us the mix, and then like Josh is very much involved in sort of giving that feedback to say, all right, this is how I kind of want it to sound, which is great. Because I mean, like, yeah, it's like, because I agree that during the writing process, while we're sort of getting the arrangement, the songwriting kind of down, almost like the sound of each individual drum.
I'm perfectly happy to send like proper demos out in just the default rolling kit, because they know what they're doing. The rolling kit does sound really good. So yeah, I've got no problems with doing that.
Sometimes less is more.
Yeah, especially in bass.
So we'll bring that on to bass. So because bass is, I think, we all hate on bass. Let's be honest. We all like to give a bit of a dig, but where in Axiom, especially, that bass is, I feel like, carrying a lot of the groove and the rhythm, and as well with the drums. But what I like is it's not always locked in with the drums. It's its own separate element in certain aspects, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and now I like when you say sort of, the bass carries the groove. I thought you were going to say the bass carries the group, which I was going to agree with. But no, yeah. So like again, I do think this comes down to like the way that we write. Sorry, I've completely thrown this.
You are so getting muted on the next EP or whatever it is we release.
Probably. Yeah, I think again, it comes back to the way we write, and there is kind of a lot of involvement from like every other member on each track. So when it comes to like the bass, like Josh will kind of sit with me and say, oh, we can kind of consider these types of rhythms that sort of might be quite interesting to sort of not match, but I guess complement sort of his drum beats. And then we'll sit down with Zaid, and Zaid will go, okay, have you thought about this sort of melody that might kind of sit nicely underneath the guitar or whatever. But yeah, I think it's just there's a lot of synergy between kind of what we do, and there's a lot of conversation around it, and also the word you used, Josh, was iteration as well.
Yeah, exactly.
I think a lot of people could hate being in this band because there's a lot of rejection, frankly. Somehow we're all cool with it, and well, hopefully not misguidedly feeling like it's bettering us as musicians. I'd love to
like a marriage without
more
sex.
Of our rehearsals.
We
fuck all the time.
What?
What?
I mean, I missed out on those sessions. Are these the lunchtime sessions?
Yeah.
You don't need to worry about it. Go on.
Oh.
But I mean, to jump back a little bit, it is that like it is that iterative process, and being able to kind of craft this kind of thing of like where the bass is holding a groove and kind of matching the drums or not, or matching the guitar or not, and balancing that out. That's often just a case of like, we've tried every other permutation. We like genuinely have tried like a lot of different rhythm stuff, and that's not just the bass. It's all of us. Like there's every part really has gone through a lot of change, and it may be that still is like the original part, but we've tried everything but that original part, and it turns out the original part was the best, so we're keeping it. But
I guess like what's great, like because we all love a good like grooving section of a song, but like, you know, if you took what you would consider like a bass groove and you just listen to it, like it would not groove anywhere near as hard as like as it with sort of that considered drum part or that considered sort of guitar part kind of alongside it, and that's again something that we do kind of work really hard, I'd say, on. Like once we get a groove and we're sort of jamming, we're like, okay, this is nice, like what are the elements of this that really make it groove, and we start trying to drill down to that and sort of refine it.
That's cool. I quite respect that, because it's very easily to sort of overly complicate things. It can happen very quickly.
Yeah, it has, and I think
probably always will.
Yeah, but it is still complicated music. Like what's a dumb thing you wrote in? Is it Blood in the Water, where it's you've got like the guitar part is literally 3 bars of 5, a bar of 6, 3 bars of 5, a bar of 7, the 6 bars of 5, a bar of 7. It's just this ridiculous thing, and it's like my and Stu's job really during that section to kind of make that feel good to listen to. Again, it's up to the listener when it comes out. I genuinely think that part really grooves now. That part really like feels good to listen to, even though it is this weird, complicated thing.
You could almost, I guess, as a comparison, you could almost liken it to Danny Carey from Tool, because obviously the guitars and the bass carry a lot of time signature changes, but the drums go with it, but they also mask them quite comfortably at the same time.
That's something
that world
is nuts, and I'm in no way saying that I am like Danny Carey. I've tried playing a Tool song for a cover that may be being released soon, and that was an absolute like nightmare to be able to do. But I do think that that's really important in a lot of technical music, is to have some member of the band having something that someone can latch onto that isn't as complicated as the parts around it.
Absolutely. I think my favorite thing is when we've played a song a few times that's got a complex time signature bit, which we will have talked about because we'll have had to work out what the hell's going on, and we don't know anymore. That's my favorite thing, because it means that we're just playing the music, man. And it's like, you don't have to think about the time signature. It might be because we've played it 5,000 times, but hopefully it's because it's just musical and it's kind of become kind of easy in a way, I guess.
I feel like that's when you've got it right. Like when you're listening to it back 100%. And like you don't, like, it doesn't even click that it's a strange concept. You just like groove into it and you're like, oh yeah, that's what we're all about.
I think there is a lot of like technical stuff that does, like, you know that it's in a weird time signature. It's got like a jerky jankiness to them, which could be something they're going for, and like it
has its place, 100%.
It has its place for sure. But there are bands that can kind of mask that, and you kind of like, you feel the unease that the time signature kind of creates, but it feels less jerky and like
it feels natural.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think there's.
I'm
sorry, go on.
Sorry, dude. No, man, you go for it. I keep interrupting.
I think that's quite evident in Gestalt, because you've got that one section in the middle where there's a guitar riff and it goes did it sort of thing, and it has that sort of broken up odd time signature change, but it feels so natural in the context of the song.
Yeah, it does tie in with what I was going to interrupt and say, actually. And I think Gestalt was actually more Serpentine and into Gestalt around that, whenever that period of time was. We started to talk a lot more, I'm going to use the word intimately, about what the songs were sort of trying to portray. So, like, for example, a song like Scared was a riff and a drum beat we had possibly before Stu joined.
I'm pretty sure that the kind of like chorus riff of Scared we'd written before, and then as soon as Stu came up with the tapping verse beat, there's the song. You know,
we were off. Yeah, and I think it's named because someone's Google Assistant said something funny in the car. Oh no, that's something else. It was literally me. So I was literally, we were going for our first playthrough of Scared, and I think I went, oh my god, I'm scared, let's just go. So that was like, the song got named that, and it was more like Metathesis is very much about three dudes getting to know each other, and it turns out we fucking hate each other, and it's no, I'm just kidding.
We just said the basics.
It turns out like we kind of got on the same page, and we've, you know, we talk a lot more about the band's future, and with the songs we talk a lot more about literally how any bar from one to the next makes each of us feel. Emotionally. Yeah, go on, Josh.
So actually, like in the newer songs, we're saying stuff like, I think we're building up to, like, this part makes me feel uneasy, so the part after it needs to be like a part of relief after that unease, or we need to build up to this kind of chaotic part and then move to. So we're talking about the kind of like emotions, the song, or the feelings,
the storytelling, and
exactly that, which we definitely lacked in Metathesis, because we weren't at that stage yet. We're really cutting our teeth at that. Yeah, because like a lot of because like I hadn't been until that point, really. So I think Zaid was the most experienced out of all of us, and I don't think you were playing this kind of stuff. So
no, and I've been in everything from like literally 11-piece jazz funk bands through to stuff that should have done really well, and this is the band that's the weirdest by far, and it's done the best for me as a musician, but I don't know. It's not a career band, but like, we're doing some cool stuff, man. We could have done the shows we were going to do this year, and I've been like, I'm done. I quit. This is awesome. I'm out.
I mean, I think
it's nice
it's quite respectable, because I think there's a lot of bands out there. I'm not going to name bands, but there are bands out there that are a big status, but I feel like then they just kind of hang on to the elements that just made them big, and you know, and sort of just stick with that because it's comfortable. Whereas when you've got three guys that I feel like are all naturally working together cohesively, and as well as actually genuinely enjoying the product that they're putting out, that the person on the other end of it is going to realize that, and I think it's more to what people would actually want to hear.
Yeah, we hope so. Like, there's one thing that I don't want to, like, I don't really, like, if we decided the next album would be like a complete genre shift and we're all okay with it, I don't really care. The one thing I want everything we write to be is to be like sincere and genuine, and we hope that kind of comes across in the stuff that we write. This is like a genuine attempt at artistic expression, and you have to with prog. It's not, you know, it's not like but yeah, it is. That's what I want it to be, kind of like a more sincere and realized.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like at the end of the day, we just want to, we strive to write music that we all genuinely enjoy and are proud to have made, and you know, to sit back at the end of the day and go, I really like this. Like we put a lot of work into it, and you can tell, and it's just like that feeling of like pride in what you've created. And if other people enjoy that, that's even better.
But I think that goes to what Zay was saying, in that because we're not necessarily a career band, like, our livelihoods as musicians are not riding on this, and I think that can influence people's decisions in songwriting. And we're lucky enough that we don't have like financial pressures influencing what it is, how long we take with this stuff, and what we're writing is, you know, it can, it's more us than I think unlucky other bands maybe experiencing.
It can sort of take as long as it needs to take in order for that right product to come out.
Yeah.
So
like, I'm pretty sure that once COVID is like over and lockdown's over, there's gonna be loads of bands that are gonna have put out some amazing stuff and produced, like, I reckon we're gonna see a lot of albums kind of like being quickly put together, because we are taking our sweet time, and it's not like a shade on them or anything like that. It's literally, we take so long to write. The better we get at writing songs, the longer it takes us. It's ridiculous. We're not getting.
We just hate it less.
Yeah, exactly.
So, as a band, when you first had that finished product of Metathesis and you listen to it back, this is to each one of you, was there one particular moment that you had on your own instrument where you were just like, that's exactly everything I've wanted to create and more?
That's a great question.
It's a heavy question. I'm trying to there was a lot of emotion around Metathesis and finally getting it done. I mean, for me, I remember a song I always regret. Like, I would have loved to have done an epic video for Slumber. And we demoed it and we put it out because it was genuinely the best thing we had, but I never feel like it got its dues.
I always think it does. It's always been like our set closer, and I always feel like
that's true.
Really cool at the end of the set. Like it.
That's very true.
When we were
I remember hearing. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, just when we were constructing the whole set, that was pretty much the first decision. Was we end on Slumber? That's that's the first thing.
I think hearing that done to my ears, the way, I don't know, Michael just got, when I listen to Metathesis, I'm like, I want to be in that band, and I'm in that band, and it's weird. He just nails it. It's very authentic. I mean, it is us live, but there's just the right clarity in the parts and the depth and subtleties and the delay choices and the panning. So I think for me, it was probably Slumber, and then very quickly after that, Believe. You know what? After a weekend of listening to it, I'm trying to remember. I know we got the first mixes back, and go on, Josh. I'm probably just going to ramble.
Yeah, fair. I'll stop you with that. But I think I don't want to talk for everyone in the group, but I kind of feel like, not with this band as a whole, it's rare really for us to write proper, like, standout parts. Not necessarily in a good way. Yeah, good point. But not necessarily, not like in a bad way. Like, everything is like, everything, the whole, it's everything. It's not just this guitar lick, it's cool. It's not even this section with all of us, not even the song.
Yeah.
It's the whole thing, the artwork of the EP, the video that we did, all of the stuff that, like, everything kind of comes together, and like I can't really separate all of that out.
No, you're right. Yeah, that's where I'm at.
I struggle to separate it all. Like, I do remember.
I do really like that gap in Scared, where like where Josh does like his usually live,
King,
yeah. That's the bit that stands out for me.
When no one else is playing.
When no one else is playing, yeah.
I do. I'm really happy with the drum sounds on Metathesis. Like, I think, I really like a good punchy snare.
I love the snare sound in that.
Yeah, it's so good. Nice. And it didn't. I was worried that I was going to be that annoying guy that would like do loads of back and forth, but I'm pretty sure it was just like 2 sessions of like, here's my initial kind of changes, came back, another set of changes, and that was it. It was perfect. It was like, it was great.
Yeah, Michael did a stellar job, man. Just like in terms of getting that what is now the Axiom sound, I guess, right? As per that EP.
I can vouch for that after it's been seeing you live, because when you listen to it live, it does sound like the album, which is ultimately what you want.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Yeah, I mean, like, again, that comes down to like the fact that sort of, he's Michael sent Zaid and I the Helix patches like that he used, and then we've used that live. So
the other thing I haven't mentioned, I don't know if we've ever mentioned this in an interview, but Michael asked us to live track with Josh playing to a metronome on our phones and on this like Zoom live recorder. So that layered in with us in the studio is audio from us in a room at probably Pirate Studios, actually just playing into our phones. That's layered into the sound. So all this stuff he did just gave it, I feel like I'm sat in this bubble with the 3 of us, as this is like some weird meta thing, isn't it? But
I forgot about that.
It must be.
You're right.
And it definitely has this like quality to it where there's an intimacy to it. I can't. Yeah, it's hard to quantify, I suppose.
Yeah.
Romanticizing a little bit.
Yeah, it's making me think.
It's bringing a lot back, man. It's bringing a lot back.
Do you remember? Like, I do remember seeing your face after we screen printed the first few of the limited CDs.
I love that.
and
I
you
love
like
that so
getting
much, man.
the screen, like the first test kind of print on that sort of
Yeah.
acetate sort of stuff. I think you still got at your place
I have.
now. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like seeing your face on. I think again, those are the moments that I kind of like stand out from that whole process. Yeah, it's just seeing it all come together as a sort of release.
And I guess if we're talking about standout moments generally in sort of Axiom's history, there was the first time we tried to record Metathesis, and we were just like staying in like these rooms for like this long weekend, and there was one where like Josh was in like some underwear in like this hallway. Do you know what I'm talking about, guys?
Yeah, it was long. Did you say it was
that one?
Yeah, it was. I was wearing some long johns and like stuck my hand. Yeah, it was fucking freezing in there. Like genuinely, it was like middle of winter. It was super fucking cold.
Like a farmhouse, wasn't it, or whatever? But
it was a farmhouse. It was very, very cold. So I was just wearing long johns and then stuck my hands in the leg part, so I was all like combined like that. Pulled it up over my shoulders and chased Zayd down a corridor, just going.
But it was like pitch black. It was pitch black, and Stu just happened to have his torch on. The lights weren't on.
I don't know why, because like all the lights are off. Yeah.
It was like a Resident Evil moment. Just the way he disappeared round the corner, hissing.
With these like long johns over his shoulders, and he's like running like this weird, deformed creature. It was both frightening. It's like the funniest thing I've ever seen.
I imagine there was a large amount of excrement that came out of your bottom at that point.
Oh man, it was
a lot of whelping like a little girl.
Yeah. That was the standout from that recording session. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Savage.
So I've got a few more questions, and then we'll start to sort of closely wrap it up. So it's a really boring question, I know, but on each of your craft, who are your inspirations that you tend to try and aspire to write like, or inspired you to pick up your instrument of choice?
Who wants to go first?
Who wants to go first?
Zayd, do you want to go first? I always pick on you, Zayd.
I've been playing a very long time, so my influences in the early days were the same as most people's: Hendrix, Kirk Hammett, that kind of thing. And then I think I started to. My dad's a massive Stevie Ray Vaughan fan, and do you know Stevie Ray?
I do.
He's kind of got this, he's this blend of like fiery blues, just such an emotive player, and this blend between musicality and technical sort of prowess, and that definitely put me down the road of how do guitars do that kind of thing. And then I was in bands for a long time and actually stopped listening to music for probably about 8 years because I was making it. And then I took a break from playing for quite a long time, and then came back listening to probably guys like Satriani to begin with, the real sort of piecemeal stuff, and then dudes like Pliny sort of started emerging, and I started to listening to more sort of guitarists. So yeah, I think it's guys like Pliny, like Intervals. Rabia is a huge, like he's just phenomenal. And then I really love guys like Rick Graham, who have just taken the technical sort of playing to another level, but can just speak with the instrument. Guthrie Govan, they're probably all very, as you'd expect, influences. But yeah, it's a long list, man. I actually love drummers and bass players as much as I do guitarists. But there you go.
Not us two, but there are some out there that I think
other drummers and bassists you love.
You play drums and bass?
Now and then.
Sometimes. Josh, who are your influences?
I mean, I think that the guy that inspired me to pick up drums was Josh Shepard from Coheed and Cambria. Like, that was the guy that I was listening to that was like, shit, I need to play this instrument.
That's not a name you hear very often.
No, the thing is, he is severely underrated because, and I think this is an attitude that I've taken to a lot of the songs, is he can fucking play, and can do some really, really complicated stuff, but he only does it when it's kind of feels necessary in a song. I think he is more than happy to play a really simple beat if that's what the song needs. and he can groove. Like his like ability to groove with a lot of stuff is like really underestimated. Like I grew up listening to like Coheed were my favorite band growing up, and that's kind of my first exposure to kind of like, I don't know, the wider. They're a good entry point to the wider world of like rock music and technicality and stuff like that, while still retaining that kind of like poppy, funky stuff. So I think, yeah, he also has the same first name as me, so that always helps. And I mean, this is going to be sappy as shit, but like I've been playing music with Stu for like ages. We went to school together, so we've been playing like on and off, kind of like playing stuff. Weirdly, I don't think we've ever been in a band together, but we jam together all the fucking time. Like we've kind of grown up as musicians together. So yeah, I think that's definitely been a kind of like a weird kind of dual inspiration. Yeah, that's been going around.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, it's interesting you say that, Josh, because like I have some memories of kind of when I first got into music. Really weird. I don't know if I've ever said this to you guys before, but like when I was really young, I used to have like almost like a fear of music. I used to hate music when I was like proper young, and I have like vague memories of that time when like I just didn't like music, which is
Really?
weird. And I don't know why. Like, well, yeah, I had a number of sort of probably issues, should I say, when I was much younger. But I won't go into. But like that was one of them. But I remember a period where it was when we were at school, Josh. Like I think my aunt got me a keyboard, and I was like playing around with it, and it was from there that I started kind of like, oh, I quite like this, and I somehow ended up in a parody rap troupe. Was my first foray into music.
Is this the Beeham Boys? Is this the Beeham Boys?
This is the Beeham
Oh yeah.
Boys. Yeah. And that was my first foray into music. Actually, was this sort of parody rap troupe. And then I think there was a guy at school that gave me a Metallica album. I think it was Saint Anger.
Well, start with the best.
Yeah,
at least you can only get better unless you listen to
yeah.
Like I remember he gave me that, and then there was another guy at school that like, back when LimeWire was the thing, he just gave me this like USB stick with like
Linkin
a load
Park
of his music on it.
nom.exe.
It was who knows what was, I can't remember what was on it, but like, yeah, it was from there that I started getting into like rock and metal and stuff like that. And I think, Josh, you took me to one of my first ever gigs, which was a Biffy Clyro gig, I think.
I'm not prepared to speak about my first gig.
Go on.
You got to tell us now.
Busted.
Was it?
Busted was the first concert I ever went to.
Nice. I love that. But having said that, do you know, actually no. So like, I think the second one I went to was Biffy Clyro. The first one I went to, Dave took me to a good mate of ours from school. Dave gave me a ticket to see Feeder, and the opening act was Goldie Looking Chain. So technically the first band I saw live was Goldie Looking Chain.
Nice. Like, Josh will appreciate this. My first live band was Rammstein, which meant
no way. I did not know that.
I didn't know that.
Which meant the next few gigs I went to were a massive disappointment.
I was going to say that's a good one to start with.
Oh God, yeah.
So were these your first big gigs, or were these your first?
That was genuinely my first
first gig.
Genuine first gig.
So you never did like the local, I don't know, pub or whatever with some mate in a punk band? Really?
No. Like there was none of that at our school. Too fucking posh.
Goldie Looking Chain, mate.
The first band I probably saw was I've forgotten his name. The guy that runs Loki Films.
Elastic Band.
His band. They're rubbery. They are rubbery.
We've lost Aid for a bit now. He'll giggle for a while.
I've just been rocking. Sean Hudson from Loki Films used to have a band in my little hometown called Levanta. I threw up in very, very many a toilet at a Levanta gig.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, they were probably the first band I saw. And then the first proper band I saw were Aerosmith, and that ruined everything, probably as a similar degree to Rammstein did for you.
If I hear you pronounce it Rammstein again, I will get on the next train to Lincoln or whatever you are and slap you.
Is it not? How is it actually said? Can I have a lesson in pronunciation?
Rammstein.
Rammstein.
Oh God.
Rammstein.
Why,
I'll
why
just
did you
mumble.
sound Scottish then?
I
Don't know.
Ramstein.
Every accent he does is always a bit Scottish, like
Yeah.
Jamaican Scottish. It's always
Which, by the way, I am. So it makes sense.
You're Jamaican and Scottish.
Yeah, like actually.
How did I not know that about you?
Yeah, I'm like, both my dad's parents are from Scotland.
When he was a kid, he used to play in a reggae band who played the triangle. He stood at the back and ding.
Oh man!
I mean, if you were in a reggae band, that's less embarrassing than the Cowboys.
amazing.
Oh, I love it.
Okay, chaps. So I've taken off your time. So I have a regular segment on this podcast, and I'm going to have to try and adapt this as best as I can. So this is where I'm going to. So as a guitarist, I usually say, you have one pedal, one amp, and one guitar. What are you taking on a desert island? Bass works exactly the same. Drums, I'm not sure how to adapt this, so I'm going to say one pair of drumsticks.
Who would you punch in the face for the rest of your life? Similar.
But we all know he's going to say Stu.
It's going to say me. I was going, yeah, obviously. It's like
When he
next
stops
question.
playing the bass, he's gonna. No, I think I can make it. Like, I think I can make it work. Like, she's a kind of cymbal brand.
Cymbal brand, drum kit brand, and drumstick brand. There you go.
Oh,
That'll work.
I'll go for it. Yeah.
So it was guitar, pedal, amp.
Yes.
Can the amp have reverb built in?
Yes.
Ah,
I'll allow.
that's kind of made it worse because now I have to think. So I would probably have some kind of HSS Strat, possibly a Strandberg, but I might just go. I'm going through a bit of a Strat thing at the moment. And then amp. Do you know what? Amps really piss me off. Can I just not have an amp, and can I take the Helix? Or is that cheating?
That counts as your pedal. That's
Okay.
your pedal as
Oh,
well.
cool. Okay. I'll just have a flat response amp with a speaker in it, then, please. Yeah, that's me.
Quite easy to please then.
That's a good answer, actually. Yeah, if you get a flat response, it's just, yeah, Helix does it all for you.
That's your answer.
I mean, well, from an amp perspective, probably, yeah. But I mean, like, definitely my Spectre bass. Just love it. Yeah, and I would, yeah, Helix without a doubt is the pedal, and then amp-wise, I just genuinely like plug in my headphones into the Helix and I'm happy. But go on, I'm gonna be lazy. Flat response amp, just so that I can annoy the I don't know, creatures on the island.
Right, Josh, how can we your best efforts?
How can we adapt this? So, again, I mentioned I'm not really like a technical like drummer in the sense of like knowing a lot about various like technical aspects about the drum kit as a whole. So it's quite a difficult question. I think everyone loves the kind of like Meinl Byzance kind of like distressed cymbals. They look amazing and they sound great. You know, like there's a reason why a lot of technical drummers, not even technical drummers, a lot of drummers are drawn to them because they're really good sounding cymbals. So probably them. However, I have a real bugbear with certain China cymbals. Like I like a China cymbal that resonates quite a bit and kind of like a thick sounding China. I don't like it when
it's not too tinny sounding.
Yeah. I really don't like a China that just kind of goes, it kind of is in the background. Like just use your hi hat. It's basically the same sound. So I like a big sounding China. You know, that's my
Josh's schoolofdrums.com.
Yeah,
just that on the homepage. 15 quid, please.
Called Jade Garden.
Yeah. As for the rest of the stuff, I haven't been able to use it yet, but Mapex released a 30th anniversary snare thing that my girlfriend got me for my 30th birthday as a lovely birthday present, and then we went into lockdown, so I haven't been able to use it. It was literally like we had a gig coming up like in the coming months, so I was like, oh yeah, we get to play it. So I've genuinely never been able to play it, so I'm just going to take that with me and hope that it sounds good.
It'll just have a hi-hat and you just have the snare, that's it.
Yeah, that's all I need. To be fair, like who was it I was talking about? If you want like jumping back to inspirations, there's a band called Meet Me in St. Louis whose drummer only has hi-hat, snare, kick, and ride crash. That's all he uses, and he can write some really cool drum beats along those stuff.
Yeah.
And that I'm quite inspired by that concept of like sometimes when you have too much stuff, you can kind of use the same beat across the whole drum kit, and you can kind of mask the fact that you're basically playing the same thing. And been stripping down to these really raw elements makes you examine exactly what it is that you're playing.
Is that the dynamics, so to speak?
Yeah, exactly. You can kind of really, you kind of have to, especially in this band where you can't really play the same thing. You can't really hide, exactly. So being like exposing yourself to just being able to play on the bare minimum, and then you can kind of see where you can kind of tweak that. I think that's really useful as a tool. So yeah, that's all I need. Hi-hat, snare, and a kick. We're all good.
Happily pleased.
Yeah,
or easily
exactly.
pleased, rather.
Yeah. Plus it's much less setup time, which is always great.
Less time to set up and pack down.
Yeah, for sure.
As we all know, that is the laborious thing. You know, us guitarists, we're done, and then drummers still just putting up the kickstand.
Yeah, I do hate it. I want to do more to kind of
pain in the butt, man. Mind you, we've got it down. We've got it down as much as it can be down, I think. But
I think so. Yeah, we'll see.
Next question.
Remember what to do.
Next question is: what are you listening to at the moment? What has been your most recently played?
I listened to something lately, but I've completely blanked on it. So I'm going to let them answer while I look at my music playlist.
Do you know what? I actually think I've been listening to because I like instrumental stuff when I work, and I've been on this, like, it's going to sound really weird, this like meditation kind of course thing. So I've been listening to a lot of chill hop today. And the last thing I was listening to was a chill hop essentials playlist, and it's really good to work to.
Nice.
I've been listening
lo-fi.
Yeah.
I've been listening to almost the opposite. So I've been listening to Every Time I Die, who I really fucking like. They're great.
They are good. Yeah.
Two completely different ends of the spectrum.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It gets worse. I've been listening to Motown.
Nothing wrong with a bit of bopping.
Josh,
No,
what have you
not
been
at all.
listening to?
I love that era of music.
Yeah.
Me, I have been listening to some Fantagram. I think they are an excellent band. And what else have I been listening to? I think I have had some Black Peaks.
Nice.
Black Peaks, Fantagram, Hotai, Japanese guitarist. I don't know many people know about him. And Death Blooms, ironically. Thank you for asking me. You're the first guys to have actually asked me what I'm listening to. It's nice to be thought of sometimes.
That's why we keep Stu around, is because he is annoyingly sociable, and that I think is a skill that in a band that me and Zaid kind of lack.
Yeah.
There have been plenty of times that both me and Zaid have been super tired after a gig. We've got like drive home from Sheffield, and we have to drag Stu away from like befriending the entire audience.
Even though I'm just as exhausted, but I'm
Yeah,
like, well,
like,
I've committed now. I'm like, well, I'm committed now. I have to say, I have to exchange pleasantries before we leave.
It's not just exchanging
All of
pleasantries.
them.
They've become like I turn around and you've become like sworn blood brothers with half of the like sound crew or whatever.
I haven't washed my hands since you shook my hands, so
Nice.
Neither have I.
Knowing where Stu's been, I would watch that hand immediately. Yeah.
And lastly, so for all the listeners or watchers here, where can they find you, or each individually, or the band as well?
Axiom.band is a website that has all our social links.
Yeah.
There you go. That's all the band
Definitely.
stuff. If you want to find whatever,
that.
Axiom.band, done. There you go. Find us on there.
Yeah.
And we're all on social media. But if you can find us,
That is the question.
I really wanted to leave at that point.
We're somewhere on social media, but yeah. Axiom.
I think we all kind of, none of us are on social media in any kind of meaningful way other than the band. I'm occasionally on Twitter, but that's just really retweet pictures of my dogs and occasionally get angry at politics. So you probably don't want to follow me. It's fine.
The dog bit's good.
Yeah, the dog bit's all right.
Oh, actually, you've just reminded me of a brilliant point that I have completely forgotten, so I apologize. So obviously we have now had some plan of what is to come forward, hopefully, in terms of music, concerts, and, lifting of the restrictions with COVID. Is that going to be hopefully opening some opportunities for you guys?
In theory. So
Yes.
we can't, I don't think we can disclose it yet, but we did accept a tentative show date. As far as we're aware at the moment, TechFest and Arctangent are going ahead. Outside of that, we aren't being too proactive in going after shows. Well, I say we aren't being too proactive. We've done absolutely nothing, and we'll continue to do absolutely nothing to sort of chase shows, because I think, depending how the next couple of months goes, something resembling a release cycle will be starting for us. We're also in a place where we're kind of like EP, album. So I think when it meets its natural conclusion, and the music will tell us that, ironically, as cliche as that sounds, it will. It'll when it's ready, it's ready, So yeah, we'll see. I think everyone's kind of, we're so keen to get back out there and doing stuff, but we are committed to the writing. But at the same time, we are at the point where actually going out and playing some of this stuff live would be the natural next step. So
yeah.
Watch this space.
Cautiously optimistic. I think we all are at the moment.
Yeah.
We don't want to go out too soon. Let's be honest. We don't need to be back in school.
Yeah, exactly. It's that I really want a gig. I'm really excited for things to open up, but only if it is safe to do so. I think that's where we're all at as a band.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So Axiom, Josh, Stu, Zaid, thank you so much for having us. Spending with me.
It's a lot of fun.
It's been fun. We've been able to make fun of bass. We've been able to geek out, and more importantly, have a laugh. Which is the main
none
thing.
of us have got trousers on.
Breaking the rules. Sorry, guys.
No, there's always
you
one.
got good socks.
Is anyone else wearing a gym bay, by the way? Has anyone else got a gym bay? I thought
you were in something exotic.
I thought it was a kimono. Or a
mate, come on. You know
I'm wearing
different to a gym bay, right? Come on.
I've got a Zoom pair.
And I'm supporting the latest line of Axiom brandwear.
I said I'm wearing a Zoom.
That does remind me. I've got
a Zoom pair. I see.
I do. If we are doing a release cycle, we will be doing a lot more merchy stuff. So that's something that I need to look at doing.
Axiom gym bays.
So
Axiom gym bays.
Axiom long johns.
Oh fuck yeah!
Yeah.
Oh, with like a button you can press and it's got a record like that. It does the recording of me going like.
that was the sound. That was the sound. Yeah.
That was the sound.
Beautiful.
All right, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in to this episode of the Guitar Geeks podcast. Please make sure that you check Axiom out in the link box below. Go and drop them a follow. Go and drop them a listen, because your ears will thank you for it. And until the next time, I bid you farewell.